Chapter 6 A Sad Time. Every day that spring, Hachiko went to the station in the evening and waited for his master. One day, Mrs. Ueno came to our stall and talked to our mother. "I feel sad in our house now, without the professor," said Mrs. Ueno. "It's a big house too, so it's expensive. I'm going to sell it and go and live with my daughter." "Is Hachiko going to go there with you?" my mother asked. "No," Mrs. Ueno said. "An Akita dog needs a yard, and my daughter doesn't have a yard at her house. But my old uncle does, and he wants to help. He likes Akitas, and he would like to have Hachiko." 3 weeks later, Mrs. Ueno took Hachiko to her uncle's house. My father went and helped her. The uncle's house was 2 kilometers away, on a quiet Tokyo street. Mrs. Ueno and my father walked there with Hachiko, and Hachiko's new master put the dog in the yard. The yard had a high wall, and Mrs. Ueno said to my father, "Hachiko can't run to the Shibuya station from here. The wall is very high, and he doesn't know these streets." But the next evening, Hachiko jumped over the wall, ran to Shibuya station, and waited there. Mrs. Ueno's uncle looked for Hachiko in the streets near his house, but he could not find the dog. Then the old man went to the station and saw Hachiko. He was sitting near the ticket office. "Come on, Hachiko," Mrs. Ueno's uncle said. "The professor isn't coming. We need to go home." He took Hachiko back to his house, but every evening, for 2 or 3 weeks, Hachiko jumped over the high wall and went to the station. He wanted to go and wait there for his master, Professor Ueno. People brought him back to the uncle's yard, while the uncle welcomed at him, but it was no good. Hachiko did not want a new master. So Hachiko began to live in the streets near Shibuya station. Akitas are big dogs, and they need to eat a lot of food every day. So Hachiko began coming to the back of the food stalls. Here he could sometimes find some fish or meat or some rice, but often there was nothing for him, and some nights Hachiko was very hungry. My parents gave him water and sometimes some food, but they had a baby now, my sister Keiko, and they did not have a lot of money, so they could not always help Hachiko. We always liked to see Hachiko, but not everyone was kind to him. One of the men from the food stalls did not like him, and he always chased him away. "Go away, you dirty dog," he said, and Hachiko put his tail down and ran. Some boys like to throw stones at Hachiko too, when he sat near the ticket office at the station. Hachiko waited at the station for many hours every evening. He watched carefully when people walked out of the station. Some people came home through Shibuya station every day. They wanted to go home quickly, and most of them did not look at the big dog. But some people liked to see him and always stopped and patted his head. They knew his story from the people at the food stalls. Later at night, Hachiko slept next to one of the buildings near the station. His big coat was warm, but on winter nights people saw him in the cold and felt sad for him.